Thank you, Cole. So hi, everyone, and welcome to this session, which is titled Empowering Youth, Networks to Achieve Influence and Collective Economic Impact. And it's going to be delivered jointly by VSO International as well as Afrika Youth Movement. So my name is Anne Kahuria, and I'm the Global Youth Engagement Officer for VSO International, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. So as you realize, maybe we started a few minutes late, but we'll continue. In this session, we will discuss and share evidence through examples on the important role that young people play in the effective advancement of inclusive youth livelihoods through various experts from local, national, and regional level. And we'll start off, VSO International presenters will focus on VSO's global network approach, the role of youth networks in gathering youth voices. This is from grassroots level all the way to the national level. Considering how this is being cascaded all the way to informed decisions, policy actions, and interventions. And we'll be sharing case studies or examples from Kenya, as well as Uganda, showcasing our social accountability process, as well as our participatory action research. The Afrika Youth Movement will share their theory of change and approach with a focus on the regional context and activating collective actions through networks, social movements. And for this session, the key learning will be about how the tools or the collective approaches are enhancing wider understanding of the systemic level changes which are required to achieve better livelihood, and how youth have successfully influenced their external environment to secure collective economic gains. So feel free to write your comments or your questions on the chat, and we'll endeavor to respond to your questions as you go along. Also at the end of the session, we'll have the Q&A session. So to start us off, I'd like to welcome Susina, who's the Global Youth Engagement Manager for VSO International. We'll be sharing the VSO Global Youth Network approach, including the youth strategy, which has been adapted for youth engagement at local, national, regional, and global level. Welcome, Susina.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome everyone, and good morning and good afternoon to you all. I'll briefly share the kind of background for youth engagement and network building in VSO, and I'll be brief in those points, as I understand that you will learn more from the grassroots level engagement and what has been achieved through the work more. In VSO, we define youth as a time when people make the transition from childhood to adulthood. So we don't follow as such an age bracket approach, but we follow a life cycle approach which help us to recognize that context for youth development, especially for those highly marginalized, is complex. It allows us to stay relevant to youth needs while kind of accompanying them to their journeys and empowerment in the growth and development process. In our programs and in all our interventions, we engage youth at different levels and using different approaches and modalities. Within our programs, which we focus on health, education, and livelihoods, and also in emergency context, we see them as primary actors and change agents, and beyond benefiting from program outcomes, they shape, deliver, monitor, and evaluate our programs to ensure relevance and sustainability. We also engage them as leaders and also advocates, empowering them to understand the global context, the regional context, how institutions function, what policy is, contributing to their lives, and for them to lead the change they want to see in their environment at different levels. We do this both by providing a volunteering opportunity. Most of our programs are operationalized through volunteering, which help us to achieve intended outcomes, but we do different modalities for engagement and approach. This is expected to for you to realize their potential and for them to successfully transition from childhood and adulthood. And then we see a success for youth engagement. We call it a success framework for youth engagement. I think the key point there is that to recognize it as a process, not an end in itself. James, you can move to the next slide. So this is our youth engagement success framework in general, and you can easily see that it is a journey, it's a process, not an end in itself. We help them to identify their aspirations or support them in their aspiration, and also build their assets and capabilities, empowering them to become equal actors and decision makers in all the interventions, programs, and in their own personal lives and growth. This at the end contribute to social impact and innovation, and support social action to flourish, active citizenship to grow in all its forms and in all contexts, especially embracing highly marginalized communities. Next one. So I'll just briefly talk about our youth networks approach. VSO highly supports youth networks in all its forms, in all its structures, and we have different forms and structures and contexts that the way we strengthen it, and it is highly youth-led. It is based on what they think is right and what their priority is, and it can be local, national, and regional, depending on the issues, depending on the youth agenda, and depending on their priorities. And this will help us to identify and amplify the most relevant priorities at different levels. So because it's highly youth-driven, and the structure and the form and the priorities are set by them, it is relevant, sustainable, and also embraces the current and most emerging issues within the communities that the youth networks are set up. It's also an opportunity to build youth capability and leadership, including their social assets. And we provide them with a platform that they can engage, trust, as well as kind of develop their skills and assets, understand, what their skills gap are, and also how to engage in policy, in civic engagement, and how to influence them, which you can shortly see by the presentation that will be made from Kenya and Uganda examples. It's also an opportunity to create an inclusive environment where even highly marginalized groups can have certain capabilities and certain linkage to develop their own ideas and also support their own growth. It promotes knowledge and sharing and learning, as you can imagine, at individual level, at collectively, across and between networks as well. And one interesting thing that we have seen in our approach to youth network building is it allows and promotes highly innovation and creativity because it's highly youth-led. It's highly flexible. The structure and the form is defined by youth. So it is very much linked to their ability to create new ways, new innovations. It can be specific to practice areas, or sometimes it can be general around SDG advocacy or any other campaign that they would like to focus upon. And finally, it positions them very well to collaborate, to partner and influence external actors, including government entities, private sector, and other CSOs. In its own right, that is very useful for them to kind of create the influence and the change they need. But at the same time, it develops their skill for civic engagement, in understanding, also position them well around public leadership opportunities that is increasingly growing, especially in the developing countries. With that, I'll pause, and I think I'll take you back to Anne, who would then share the experience of, introduce the participants who would share the experience of the country offices. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Susina, for sharing the overall VSO's global youth engagement approach. And at this point, we'll have the next presenter, who's a youth champion from Kenya. That's Phoebe Mbithi. She's an active member of Youth for Sustainable Development Network in Kenya, which was established and supported by VSO International. And Phoebe will focus on a youth-led social accountability process and how the network has influenced national policies that are linked to youth livelihoods. So Phoebe will focus on a few questions that I'll probably just share with you, so she can focus on them on the presentation. And one of the questions is, what is Youth for Sustainable Development, which is a platform that was formed in Kenya, and how was it formed? The other key question that she'll be addressing is, how has VSO supported the youth for Sustainable Development Platform, both at the formation stage as well as the actual operationalization. And she'll tell us about the social accountability approach they've adopted in Kenya, and also in terms of what they've been able to achieve, actually around policy influence or policy changes at national level, which are linked to livelihoods. Welcome, Phoebe. Phoebe, you can go next. Okay, just checking if Phoebe can hear me. Okay, so just in case we're having probably technical challenges with Phoebe, I think we'll jump into...
Hello.
Oh, hi, Phoebe. You're breaking, we can't hear you. Could you try again? Okay, I think we're having technical challenges there. So what we'll do is that maybe we can probably move on to our second youth champion as we probably sort the technical issues from Phoebe's side. And so I will introduce Robinson. And Robinson is a youth champion from Uganda. And he's going to be sharing more around the participatory action research they conducted in Uganda in collaboration with VSO International. And he'll focus more on the process they undertook for participatory action research. Also look at what are some of the emerging findings from the action research, as well as the key actions that emerged from that. And at the same time, also what are the key benefits for the young people, especially in terms of engaging the participatory action research, which was actually linked around youth livelihoods and youth employment program. Robinson, if you can hear me, you can go ahead.
Yeah, yes, and I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Let me turn on my camera.
Okay.
Yes, just for the purpose of setting the context to this participatory action research, the inclusive nature of the peri-urban methodology enables young people from within our youth networks to be trained to design and implement the research. The process involved both male and female youth trained on the PER methodologies from all the divisions within Gulu municipality. Gulu is a district that is in the northern part of Uganda. It also involved VSO team for technical guidance, some community members. We also had parents, the municipality leadership, and the business community representatives. These youth were given the skills to identify their own research questions, develop their own research tools, conduct the research, analyze results, compile findings, and transform them into action plans that are then relayed back to the entire community for feedback and engagement. This form of research by the youth and for the youth ensures that the research is context-based and better aligned to the needs and aspirations of the participants and their communities. It empowers young people by allowing them to take ownership of their own challenges in finding decent employments and upskills them so that they may identify solutions. Furthermore, the structure of community engagement in the research through validation meetings allows young people to hold duty bearers and other stakeholders to account for delivering parts of the solution. Critically, the process is action rather than recommendation focused, with the research becoming an ongoing interactive process. On your screen, you can see some of the key findings from the research. The findings have shown that young people are willing to seek employment, are interested in entrepreneurship. However, in most cases, lack the requisite education and training, including both technical and soft skills to effectively enter the job market or start their own business ventures. While there are services available to the young people, in many cases, youth are unaware of what is available or how to reach career guidance, mentorship, health information, education, and trainings, as well as business loans and grants. Also, existing micro enterprises lack the resilience and scalability to provide sufficient employment to the youth demographic. The youth-led research has outlined suggestions for a multi-sectoral approach to addressing these issues, including knowledge sharing, the provision of training, capacity building, mentoring services to young people and micro entrepreneurs, and more. While actions have been taken in response to these findings, due to the enormous size of this issue and the complexity of the challenges, government, civil society, and the private sector are required to join their resources and attention towards seeking sustainable solution to this most critical issue facing Africa's youth today. James, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. These are some of the actions which were drawn around the PAR. The PAR involves a rapid shift from research validation to action planning and implementation of recommendations. Since the research validation meeting in early 2018, a considerable number of actions have already taken place, as you can see in on your screens. We have had entrepreneurship and life skills training. This entrepreneurship training is meant to trigger the young minds to either start up their own ventures or get employed in one of the ventures that are started by the peers. We have also been able to disseminate the PAR findings for further actions, during which youth expressed interest in establishing entrepreneurship hubs. Youth also, they cluster themselves into skills interest groups to be trained in various skills, for example, tailoring, electronics repair, motor vehicle mechanics, hairdressing, etc. Well, we were able to also establish the Youth Entrepreneur, the Youth Entrepreneurs Hub, which is both a physical and a virtual platform. The physical hub is now fully launched and fully operational. It acts as a coordination center for the hub members and any other youth that intends to be supported through the hub. Yeah, we also have a number of WhatsApp groups and a Facebook page. It's fully operational, and there's a lot of information sharing that is going through that platform. Yes. I want us also to look at the outcomes of this PAR on our young people, on our youth networks. We all know that in our adult-run world, youth are not often asked for their opinions and ideas on how to address society's greatest challenges. Yet a collective effort to reverse this trend is one of the most powerful steps we can take towards a tangibly better world. However, with the PAR, youth managed to influence their external environment by by making a difference. They were empowered to change the status quo. Looking at the world with fresh eyes, the young people saw the problem as moral wrongs that can and should be righted. There was no reason in their minds why change isn't possible. So they got involved, both by contributing to grassroots efforts and joining the search for long-term solutions to unemployment. For example, identifying their own skilling needs. Also, by being creative, the fresh perspective of young people brought to the process gave them a unique ability to think up creative solutions. Youth came up with ideas that would not have crossed the minds of adults in my municipality. For example, a 25-year-old Dennis, who is a member of one of our youth groups, started selling fruit juices and fruit salads in his fitness gym. He saw the need for healthy eating while maintaining physical fitness of the body. No fitness club in the district does that. So, and also there is one who is called Isaac. Isaac is a carpenter who started making a unique chair that he calls deck chair, which no one else makes in the whole district. So those are some of the creative solutions, ideas that these youth came up with as a result of their participation in the participatory action research. Also, we know that youth really have an important perspective that enhanced their understanding of the external context. Many of today's greatest social issues have a particular impact on young people. Youth often experience issues like gender inequality, violence, much differently than adults. This perspective was critical to incorporate in the solution to unemployment, because it revealed new dimensions of the issue and suggested opportunities for innovation. For instance, we have had a number of male youth enrolling for hairdressing trainings, which was predominantly looked at as a feminine job. Also females enrolling for motor vehicle mechanics. Yeah. And one of the outcomes is that we saw that youth became optimistic future leaders as their capabilities for leadership was enhanced. We all know when young people started to contribute their ideas and energy to addressing social issues, they began to see themselves as capable leaders who can make important contributions to the lives of others. Youth who felt academically or socially inferior to their peers realized that their unique strengths are needed to build a better world through the youth. And for example, through the Youth Entrepreneurs Hub, we managed to enroll about 10 young people for a leadership course organized by Uganda National Youth Network. Out of these 3 youth, 3 are currently contesting for political position. You know, Uganda is currently in a political atmosphere. So we have 3 of them who are in vying for various political positions. Yes. Also, on this screen that you're seeing on your screen, we're trying to look at the general outcomes of the PAR. We have been able to link youth entrepreneurs and potential employees to employment and training opportunities as one of the outcomes. Been able to foster communication and dialogue with duty bearers on critical issues affecting youth employability. Yeah. And also, we've been able to link youth to skills training and business development services. Yeah. And also, PR acted as a convener for youth keen on interacting about and finding solutions to challenges in employment, entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship development. Also, it provided relevant market information for products and services from already established and future young entrepreneurs. Yeah, I think that is the end of my presentation. And back to you, Anne. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Robinson, for sharing your presentation, and of course, examples from Uganda around how young people have been engaged in participatory action research. I think it's clear in terms of how young people can actually contribute in evidence generation to inform how the changes are around livelihoods, whether at family or community or even at national level, and looking at then how then can they influence decisions that are particularly inclusive for young people, which are the examples that Robinson shared. So at this point, I'll probably go back to Phoebe, and I hope Phoebe can hear us. Yes, we can see you. And Phoebe will be sharing more around the Youth for Sustainable Network in Kenya, and how they've been engaging in social accountability processes, and how also they've been able to influence our policy actions at national level. Phoebe, most welcome.
Thank you, and I'm sorry everyone for the network issues. Here in Kenya, it's really bad. Talking about the Youth for Sustainable Development Network in Kenya, it is a network that was started in 2017 with young people from different communities in Kenya. This is a network that focuses around youth rights and youth-friendly services, also focuses around access to employment and entrepreneurship country. It is a network that, and basically the network was formed through participatory action research.
So, Phoebe, I think you can just remove the video because the network is a bit shaky, and we can see
participatory action research that was run by VSO down in different communities, basically.
Sorry, Phoebe, I was just saying that you can probably remove the video because it's, the network is a bit shaky. Then you just retain the audio. Okay, I think James, you can step in.
Hello, Anne.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne. Yes, I'm happy to step in. Apologies for the network hitch. This is James Dumoul, the Youth Engagement Officer supporting VSO in Kenya. So as Phoebe has just started sharing about how this Youth for Sustainable Development Network came to be in Kenya. So basically, as she has mentioned, VSO supported young people to conduct participatory action researches across a number of communities. For a start, it was 6 communities. In communities in Kenya, I mean counties. And through that process, young people were able to identify areas where they can be able to take lead on. And this meant that they felt the need to organize themselves and be able to take charge in trying to enhance their own participation, at the same time trying to enhance some of the policies that were already in place for them to be more inclusive. So if you look at it from our end at VSO, what support we've offered to these young people, we've offered them capacity building in various aspects, one of them being social accountability. And this means, just enabling them to understand the room for promoting accountability, as well as understanding various ways or various tools and approaches that they can be able to use throughout this process. And also trying to, link these to the constitution in Kenya, and them understanding the various prayers at the various levels and the various accountability gates that they can be able to focus on. Again, they've been capacity building around leadership, youth-led advocacy. Of course, at VSO, we have a co-approach on social inclusion and resilience, as well as still, looking at the young people as primary capacities on entrepreneurship and employability development. So how have they been able to utilize this information and this knowledge that you've shared with them? So what we've realized in a number of these communities, young people have been able to take lead in petitioning their governments. That is, making known some various asks of what they felt that would be much needed by the rest of the youth population. An example would be a case in one of the counties where deaf youth felt that they were not very well represented, they were not well facilitated to be able to participate in the county government processes, say public participation meetings, say them being able to interact at the hospital, for example, with the doctors and the nurses. And through that experience, which actually came through a mystery visit social accountability process, they were able to develop a petition. And that petition was submitted to the county government through the county assembly. And as early this year, they received an invitation to be able to share this at the county assembly level. And just last week, they also had a follow-up meeting, and the county assembly in that case is really trying to put in place some basic registration that will see the county government employ interpreters in the main hospitals, in the main youth friendly centers, as well as ensuring that all public meetings would have an interpreter. That's one of the key examples that we've seen young people being able to influence. Again, in the budgeting processes, we've seen young people being able to initiate youth-led participation meetings. This is going over and beyond what the government would provide as the general participation meetings. And in these participation meetings, it means that the young people are able to deliberate their issues and be able to come up with agendas that they feel would be necessary to be included in the budgets. And these, in one of the counties, saw a case where the county government was able to reallocate some good amount of money to take care of the TVET learning, that is a technical vocation training, something that was not initially included in the initial document. That's one of the examples that we've seen of what young people have been able to do. Again, being able to lead community-led monitoring, young people with the capacity of doing their and other partners, the understanding of the SDGs and the understanding of the development of their own communities. They've been able to work with the communities to be able to monitor their own progress and to be able to domesticate the indicators, for example, from the SDGs, as well as linking them to the various county planning documents in place, and be able to provide data to the county government, provide be a source of information to the county government when they are conducting the planning processes. Let me go to the next slide. So some other key successes that we've seen from this, in one of the communities where young people conducted some social accountability process on the government affirmative action funds. And these are funds that have been set aside by the government to be able to support or to be able to enable young people to get into entrepreneurship and to be able to run their enterprises, expand their enterprises. And we had a case where young people in that specific county, we are not really able to access the fund, or majority of them were not really accessing the funds. And the question was why? And through one of those forums that young people held, they were able to identify the key gaps that in this case were even related to the application document, having so many requirements in place and such. And through that interaction with the duty bearers, that was revised, and we've seen an increase in the number of young people being able to access funds in that county. Again, being able to participate in the development of the various policies, an example being the youth policies at the national as the county level. And in this case, we are talking about meaningful engagement in the processes, being able to participate in the meetings, not just be in attendance, but also be able to air their views, and their views are having found, finding their way even to the floor of the county assembly and the national assembly during discussions. Again, we've also seen a case example where young people have been able to influence one of the county governments to come up with the youth volunteering policy that has taken care of the inclusion angle, ensuring that those youth with disability are able to access internship as well as volunteering opportunities within the county government. And when we talk about youth with disabilities, not just the deaf youth, but looking at the whole sphere of the various disabilities. Those are some of the key achievements that we've seen with young people, and them being able to utilize the platform to enhance their voice, and at the same time being able to speak out and to mobilize and being able to organize themselves in such a manner that they are able to meaningfully duty bearers as well as meaningfully participate in all processes. I would stop there, Anne.
Okay, thank you very much, James, for sharing on behalf of Phoebe. And thank you for sharing around the social accountability work that has been done in VSO Kenya through the Youth for Sustainable Development. I think it will be interesting, just before I hand over to the next presenter, just to hear a bit more in terms of how are we ensuring that the network is actually inclusive, that the young people are well represented in all the platforms. You mentioned about the pool of disabilities, but it might be good to hear more about how we're ensuring that the network is actually inclusive.
Thank you, Anne. What you realize is that this network is youth-led. And part of the capacity building that you provided from VSO is on social inclusion and ensuring that we're not discriminating anyone. And in the spirit of the SDGs, which the young people have really embraced, they are working towards leaving no one behind. So what the young people have done, and it's make this space a safe space for young people within their counties. And as a safe space, it means that every young person in that community is welcome to this platform. Again, it's also looking at enabling environment for young people, especially with young people with disability, for them to participate. That would mean if they're holding meetings, of course, the meetings don't happen in the most inaccessible places, but the interactions would happen in the most accessible places. If you look at maybe the deaf youth, it's just a matter of ensuring that they have the necessary support for them to be able to communicate during such meetings, and this would mean having sign language interpreters available in such meetings. At the same time, to enable them to be able to engage meaningfully with the county government. I think the kind of capacity building, if you look at what VSO has been able to support them to do, talk of the leadership development trainings that you've provided them with, talk of the youth that led advocacy skills that you've built, and talk of them not just looking at themselves as primary actors, but also identifying themselves as change agents in that community. It means they are able to meaningfully participate in the process and represent the voices of the young people in places.
Thank you. Thank you, James, for that. And having heard from the two examples from Uganda and Kenya, in terms of how young people are actually influencing decisions at national level, and this is bringing the grassroots voices of young people to national level decision making and ensuring the process is inclusive, we'll go to Afrika Youth Movement, and I'll invite Rim, who will be sharing the Afrika Youth Movement theory of change and the impact of regional collective actions, which is through the network social movements that they've been working on. Rim, most welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Anne, for moderating this session. And thank you to our colleagues from VSO for sharing their experience on a national level. We would emphasize the efforts that are made on the regional level through our work in Afrika Youth Movement. So good afternoon, everyone, again, and good morning to those who are in other parts of the world. My name is Rim Lenya, and I am joining you from a very hot Algeria, Northern Africa. I am here today, as I said, on behalf of Afrika Youth Movement. So I'm sorry, I'm having okay. So Afrika Youth Movement is a Pan-African, action-oriented, youth-led movement that strives for the participation, the development, and the leadership of African youth on the continent, but also in the diaspora. And our goal is to transform Africa and to achieve our rights as Africans, but peculiarly as young people, to peace, equality, and social justice. So in numbers, Afrika Youth Movement is 10,000 members in more than 44 countries. We have 10 operating national hubs in 10 different countries in Africa. We also have 5 committees, which my colleague Sodfa will elaborate about later. And we have organized 3 annual retreats, gathering the movement's members and leadership, and also 3 international forums in Kenya, in Ghana, and Ethiopia, where we gathered more than 400 young Africans. So as the Pan-African movement, Afrika Youth Movement coordinates efforts regionally regarding youth networks empowerment, which is our theme today. Our efforts focus on approaches that activate collective action in order to enhance the role of African youth, especially the role they will play or they are currently playing in decision making. This regional collective action approach is reflected through our theory of change. So our theory of change enables us to tackle the Africa that we have today, peculiarly on the socio-economic level, which represents a number of challenges, including the lack of decent jobs and also the need of education and employment match. In addition to that, the problems related to the external influence on African economies and socio-economic decisions, and the rule over natural resources and productivity, as well as the high levels of migration arising among youth due to the lack of economic opportunities. I'm not sure if I'm sharing my screen correctly or not. I'm sorry. Could you please confirm, Anne, if you see my screen?
Yeah, so we have the slide on the theory of change and the impact of regional collective action.
Okay, you don't have the one on the Africa we have?
Africa we have. Let's see, James, you can move the slides.
Actually, I am the one.
Yes,
okay, now it's working. I'm sorry for this. Okay, so our theory of change focuses on, first of all, connecting and then empowering and mobilizing African youth simultaneously with the understanding that these 3 elements mutually reinforce each other. And it will be the only way to reach our goal to transform Africa, as I've said previously. So accordingly, Afrika Youth Movement connects young people, young Africans around the vision of Pan-Africanism and collective action. It empowers young Africans with the knowledge, the self-confidence, the abilities, the skills, and the capability and commitment to make this change happen. And lastly, to mobilize young Africans to engage, to organize, and to lead the change that delivers the results that Africa needs. So this will lead us to achieving the Africa we want. And to achieve the Africa we want, it will go through our strategic goals, power, that include promote. So promoting the practice of Pan-Africanism and supporting youth networks for unity, self-reliance, and decolonization. To organize African youth to make impact and collective action, leading them to collaborate towards common goals. And work with other youth actors and groups to achieve effective and timely solidarity and leverage advocacy efforts. And then we have enable African youth with tools and also with the capacity needed for their well-being and to achieve their goals in leadership. And finally, we aim to revolutionize normative narratives about Africa and especially about the African youth. So to conclude, I would like to expose two of our most effective campaigns that we at Afrika Youth Movement have organized. First of all, and considering our empowerment efforts towards youth and youth networks in the continent and the diaspora, we have launched the Sexy Farming campaign in August 2018 through different activities, which included online campaigns, content creation through videos, illustrations, infographics, but also online and offline discussions that engaged different actors, especially grassroots initiatives that work on agriculture and agribusiness. And this campaign aims to amplify and spread successful youth farming voices, because we consider that agriculture is a key element in achieving the Africa that we want and enhancing our economic development. So we shared the stories of more than 500 young people across 5 countries who participated and invested in the agricultural sector, either it is in rural or in urban areas. And we have selected 3 winners who were from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Namibia, and Nigeria. And the second campaign I would like to share with you today, under our advocacy efforts for women's rights in Africa, and especially for young women's rights. So in May 2018, our Committee on Gender and Equality, and in partnership with the European Network of Migrant Women, has led an advocacy campaign under the Justice for Noura. So this campaign was in support to Noura Hussein, who is a 19 years old Sudanese woman who has been condemned to death penalty for defending herself from her abusive husband. Afrika Youth Movement and other partners supported our members in Sudan in advocating at the grassroots for Noura's justice, and called out international organizations and the Sudanese government to reconsider the circumstances of this case. So I think this is it from my side. And now I will leave the floor to my colleague Sudfa Daji, who will tackle our intersectional approaches that are applied to empowering youth networks within Afrika Youth Movement. Sudfa, I hand it to you.
Thank you very much, Chiara. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I thank you for the invitation. It is my pleasure being here and joining this interesting conversation. I would like to link with what me and my colleague Reem has said while presenting the theory of change and the work of Afrika Youth Movement, and broaden the subject to discuss intersectionality in youth networks. I also take it from what James has quickly mentioned concerning accessibility and inclusivity of the youth network. From my perspective, beyond tackling it from a regional perspective, I would like to emphasize on what are the challenges based on the different circumstances and highlight the need to foster our solidarity and collaboration, considering the current challenges affecting our already fragile system. We really hope this could be a good point of view to engage and initiate a meaningful conversation on what are the challenges occurring within the youth space. Next slide, please. So as a Pan-African movement, we have grown in the past years through the feedback of our members and from the different circumstances that our members and colleagues face on a daily basis. These circumstances change and are shaped by the political, social, and economical context. And as such, we always tend to design a very flexible action plan that could reflect these contexts along to the various challenges that our members face on a daily basis, including threats on their own well-being. What I personally have learned in the past years by being in this movement is that young people in the African continent are fully aware of what their peers are going through, but often are unable to unlock their full potential to express solidarity and mobilize together. This is due to a narrative that often portrays young people as actors of the future rather than actors of the present. And very often within this youth space, often young people are branded as those who speak for the voiceless. And I think that our asset as Afrika Youth Movement is that all the young people, including the partners we have worked and still working together, have shown up strongly that there is nothing as a voiceless person. Everyone has a voice, and what young people need are a platform to shape their thoughts, to express themselves and to speak for themselves. So as a result, to ensure that no one could be a voiceless within our spaces, we have strengthened our collaboration between the national hubs and the committees made of experts working on agriculture, gender equality, health, education, peace and security, and media and technology. And this work is further complemented by the regional effort in recognizing the need to join the forces to implement and further strengthen the organic involvement of young people in the regional matters. By linking these committees, I would think that the linkage is very clear. First of all, gender equality is really at the core of our work. We fully acknowledge that within a narrative wrongly portraying young people, along with the challenges they face daily, young women are further sensitive and vulnerable in such a space. As such, every campaign, action, and statement has been developed within a feminist lens. It's pivotal for us to stress how important this matter is to achieve the full potential of young people by ensuring that young women are not left behind. Of course, this is still a long journey. Social and traditional norms often lead us to clash with what's the perception of young people pertaining to good governance, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Gender equality is still treated as a controversial issue, and quite often we find ourselves handling situations in which some rights are recognized while others are not. But this clashes with how patriarchy is rooted within our societies is for us a further source and motivation for the work we do. By providing a platform for these young people through informal education, constant exchanges, and mutual conversation, we are confident to support this generation in fully embracing the concept of human rights through an intersectional approach to ensure that no one is left behind. Even ourselves as a movement, we are still struggling with the aim of leaving no one behind. The digital divide is definitely not a new issue touching the general public, but more than ever with the current COVID-19, our already fragile system has been further exacerbated. As a result, many young people have been left behind in their own destiny. Young people are part of the informal economy, young people unable to access education of quality, young people unable to express themselves and bring to everyone's attention whatever is happening in their countries. Lack of electricity and internet connection are still a vivid reality for these young people, and with COVID-19, the grassroots mobilization has been drastically stopped. If we then think of young people with disabilities, young refugees, young people trapped in human trafficking, IDPs youth, we expand our analysis to the extent that we are left with no other option to emphasize how our system is deeply broken. More than ever, we need radical approaches within youth spaces as follows. We need to jointly mobilize and assess where and how we are failing in our mission to leaving no one behind. We need to foster funding for young people who are organizing informally and creatively, including for social artists. As youth movements, we need to join forces and empower each other. Within a competitive, fragile system, we need to set the example and mobilize together for the issues relevant to our continent and globally. And lastly, we need to be more radical and open with our position. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rim and Sotfa, for sharing the theory of change for Africa Youth Movement, as well as the regional collective actions we've been undertaking. And I think also looking at really the intersectionality that I imagine, for example, the gender and technology, which is really real time, especially when you think about this COVID pandemic. I think that's an issue that we need to tackle as young people. But I think critical also, as you mentioned, is to ensure that we don't leave any youth behind, and every young person has a voice. So at this juncture, we'll now go to an interactive session in which we'll actually also hear from you as our audience or as the participants as well, and hear your thoughts as well in terms of some of the key themes that would be imagined. And I would hand over to Rim to be able to help us with the next interactive activity. Thank you. Rim, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne. So for our next activity, which is the interactive activity, we will be tackling 3 sub-themes. So for this, we will divide you into 3 sub-breakout rooms, which have already been set. And depending on the theme of your group, you will be discussing the issue, but also we invite you to share with us your recommendations. Once in the breakout rooms, the moderators, myself, Cole, and Robin will explain further what we will be doing. Thank you so much, and see you in a bit in the breakout rooms.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Hello. So thank you guys for joining us for our breakout session. So the discussion topic that we will be looking at today is what we had actually just started talking about, is the digital divide, what can be done to narrow the gap. And the way we want to go about this session is to kind of, first off, just gather some feedback from everybody through the form of a Padlet, which is an open conversational tool. And I think, let me see if I can just share this with everyone in the room. Yes, I am going to share a link in the chat with everybody now. So we're basically inviting you to take 5 minutes to review the question on the Padlet board, and adding any notes or links or ideas that you may have underneath the question on the Padlet. If you have any questions, you want to open up to conversation, please feel free. I will be here assisting if you can't figure something out on the Padlet, or if you'd like to have a conversation within the breakout room. We have about 5 minutes, so please click on the link, add your information, and we'll get the discussion going. After about 5 minutes, you'll see a warning sign that says you've got a few minutes left, and we'll all rejoin, and we'll have someone read out on what we've come up with. All right, thanks, guys.
we all know in Africa we have had life. Like in this COVID-19 wasn't easy to the youth, and we always helping. We just giving ideas, because to understand this COVID-19.
Well, how many minutes do we have for this?
We have about a minute and a half left. All right, if we have any more comments, please place them on the Padlet. We'll be rejoining the main session here momentarily. We'll just give a moment for everyone to rejoin to the main session.
Hello back, everyone. And thank you. Okay, let's wait for some other people to get back, because I can see that not everybody is here, right?
I think we have about everybody coming back.
Because I can only see 14 participants.
I think we had a few people drop off after the breakout session. So I think we should go ahead and continue with our.
Okay, so thank you very much for participating in this activity. I am sure that it has been quite overwhelming and maybe confusing for some of you. The first time I used the Padlet board, it was very confusing and I did not know how to make a comment. So I just raised my hand in the main session. They made my comment. So I invite you to do the same if you want to add something. I will just go through your contributions so we can see what you have shared. On the question of how are youth responding to COVID-19 and contributing to building resilient livelihoods opportunities, I can read here, ensuring that people understand about the pandemic. There is a gap around understanding, and maybe this can be, I think that this can be related to misinformation. So if the person who shared this comment is here with us and would like to add something, you are welcome. Please unmute yourself and go ahead. Okay, I think that the person is not with us, so let's see something else. I read here creating.
Hello.
Sorry?
Yes, I'm so sorry. It's heavily raining here and my network and everything is so disorganized right now. I don't know. I did not hear what you say.
I was actually calling someone who wrote a comment on the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so here it says sensitizing communities about the spread of the disease and preventive measures. Would this person add something about this? Because I can't see your names. If you want to say something, just unmute yourself and please join us. Okay, so let me move to another board. It seems that everybody is silent. So discussing the digital divide and what can be done to narrow the gap. I can see here the comment from Cole that says inclusive user design centered thinking and approaches. Would you like to add something about that? Hello, Cole, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. So I can just speak a little bit about the room itself and some of the information that has been included on the board, including my own comment.
Yes.
I think in reflecting what we had spoke about, both VSO and Afrika Youth Movement, there was a couple of things that came up in our discussion through our Padlet. One of them was accessibility, not just accessibility as far as technology goes, but to areas where technology is just inaccessible. So you can see through our Padlet that that's there's some comments about that where there's enhanced access to most marginalized communities, using local technologies to help bridge that digital divide, such as someone wrote in local radios, those types of things. Included in that, there is addressing the gender gap, which I think is an also very important conversational topic in kind of bridging the digital divide, and an intergenerational dialogue and intervention, which is an interesting comment that someone had left on our Padlet as well. So it's a little bit about the background of some of the comments that we had there. If anyone has any questions or wants to contribute more, please feel free.
Thank you very much, Cole. I can see someone here who wants to add something. However, there is no name, it's a number.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Mwanga from Kenya.
We cannot hear you. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
You can get me, right?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So my name is Thomas Mwanga from Kenya, and I want to react on the question of how can we support the youth economically during this pandemic. I have two things that I wish the local governments in our various countries need to do so that to cope up with the new norm. One is to have economic stimulus packages for the youth by the governments. This will help the youth to evade their wish to be out there and trying to meet the rewards, whereby in turn they will be spreading the virus as opposed to controlling it. So the government needs to come up with packages, even if it was discussing it at the floor of the parliament or whichever government agencies. They need to come up with the packages that will help the youth to be empowered economically. And this will be funds, generally housing funds set aside for youth economic activities. Number two, we need to have our local governments give the youth an opportunity for their space. They don't need to be heard, so that for their end, whatever they are suffering from can be heard by these leaders.
Can you please wrap up in 30 seconds?
Come on.
Yes, could you please wrap up your idea in 30 seconds?
So, to summarize, that the governments need to give the youth their space and access to critical information so that they can use this information not to develop themselves going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. I can see other people who are raising their hand. So we have Sam Sheka Moy. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, hi, we can hear you.
Greetings from Sierra Leone. The efforts of youth in order to combat COVID-19, it takes leadership. Well, one thing we should know when we talk about youth, being a youth is not an easy task. As soon as you are at the age of youth, you have to be a responsible person, because you have to be a person who should respect society and also gain experience how you can help the needy in your community. Like during COVID-19, a responsible youth who stand for change can use their energy. Let's not forget about resources for now, because the message using these our local languages, because if you are a youth, you must have known majority of our local languages in different parts of the world. So use your local language, inform people, tell them about COVID-19, tell them that COVID-19 is real. You can use whatever language which people can understand. Go to that level and the humility. Being a youth during COVID-19, during this point in time, it takes humility. You have to be humble. You have to respect society, because when you are going out there to talk to people, they have to know that you are a respectable person, and then you are there to talk about the things affecting communities. And then at present, when we look at the economic effects of COVID-19, businesses have shut down. Educational system, especially girls, they are in a critical position. We have seen during lockdown, in Princeton here, women and girls have been brutalized physically by security officers when they are going to fetch water during the time. So it takes time always for us as young people to achieve. Our goal is to be humble, respect each other, because the youth need to be involved in the equity distribution of the national resources. If the youth are involved, young people, if we train young people, because young people with the right mind and values, because we cannot talk about youth if you don't have the right system or the values that can change society, that can be used to advocate for a change, that can be used to advocate for quality education, that can be used to drive away COVID-19, that can be used so that we can embrace each other. Because when the youth comes together to fight COVID-19, we can achieve that. We cannot leave this opportunity to political heads. If we leave this opportunity to political heads, it's cannot be achieved unless youth like us stand up for a change, and especially women and girls.
Sam,
yes,
could
hello?
you please wrap up in 30 seconds so we can move to take one last question? Please wrap up your idea.
Sierra Leone, I'm in Sierra Leone. Hello?
Sorry?
Can you hear me? Sorry for the poor network connectivity. I'm from Sierra Leone. So I'm from Sierra Leone because I've seen so many challenges during COVID-19 and after COVID-19. Our question now is that, what can we achieve after COVID-19? How can we help these young girls to achieve quality education, to provide sustainable development goals, food security? So that is it. It takes youth, it takes leadership. So I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Sam. And yes, we shall transform this pandemic into an opportunity by tackling the resilience and building more resilient movements, more resilient institutions and groups, so we can act further in the post-pandemic era. So we will take one last person. So I see here Amarachi Nebi raising their hand. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. And please, I invite you all to keep adding your ideas and contributions on the board at any time. Thank you. Amarachi, you can go.
Okay, good evening. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So, because of the COVID-19, most schools have shut down. There is lockdown, especially in the rural community, whereby they do not have access to education any longer. The teachers are at home. The students are not even do not have internet to take part in the virtual learning. So I was in a Global Shapers Smart Learning idea team, and there I spoke about the use of satellites, right? If satellites can be mounted in the rural communities for this, the children in the rural community, at least for them to have electricity, that is where you talk about the solar panel, the solar power. With that, they can even, start virtual learning. But I don't know how this is going to be possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think the government has to even come in here to make sure that every community has a solar power. At least let the students, have electricity, and from there we can talk about free Wi-Fi. And another point I want to raise is the food security challenges. We can see what is happening globally. It's now that we are realizing that food security is a very important topic, because the agricultural sector has been neglected for so long, and for a child to be able to function properly, he or she needs to be food secure. And this is a very big issue now, because a lot of them now are struggling with food security, and the agricultural value chain is being disrupted. So that's my contribution, that there should be solar power at strategic places in every community, and satellites should also be mounted for those marginalized students, in quotes, can also take part in virtual learning, because the ones in the urban region are that are taking part in the virtual learning, and those ones are left behind. So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amarachi, and I really join you on this point, especially looking at the deepness of the digital divide in Africa. And I think that for us as youth-led or youth-serving civil society organizations, we should tackle this through encouraging the innovative and very creative solutions that youth are bringing everywhere, but also to invite the decision makers to make the coherent and relevant steps into taking these ideas and transform them into concrete realities. So this shall be a joint effort between youth organizations, but also decision makers, either they are governmental, intergovernmental, or of another nature. So thank you very much for everybody who participated at this interactive activity. Of course, as I said previously, the boards are still open. Please feel free to pin up your ideas, and I will hand it over to Anne.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rim, and to every participant. We really do appreciate your time. And of course, in terms of just being able to share your recommendations through the Padlet, as well as the ones who've been able to voice up their recommendations. I wonder whether there's any other burning question from anybody within the team. But as we come to a close, just to bring to the call of actions that I imagine, as mentioned by Rim, around one, ensuring that all the process is actually inclusive, that no one is being left behind. So as we lead the process, also ensuring that the young people are included in the whole process, and most of the most marginalized. And of course, also closing the issue of the gender gap as well as the digital divide gap. So I think I would want to say thank you very much to everyone. Thank you so much to the VSO and international, as well as the Africa Youth Movement team who presented today. We do appreciate that, and thank you to all the participants. Thank you, everyone, and we wish you a lovely morning, lunch, or afternoon, or even night. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.